Two players, two sides. One is light, one is dark. Whoa. Do you want to know a secret? I'm the juggernaut, bitch!
Hey guys, it's Seanie B again, here for the second video of Season 1 of these recaps I'm doing. Before I start, thanks for all the nice comments you guys sent me about my grandpa passing away this past month. I didn't feel like making videos for a while, so thanks for understanding. But it is time for some more Lost, so if you guys don't know what this is, during this long break between Season 4 and Season 5, I'm going to be making recaps, going over all the secrets of every single episode of Season 1. And it's going to be from the point of view as if you've seen all the episodes so far up to Season 5, the beginning of Season 5. And if you haven't yet, there will be spoilers, so don't watch this. And the episode we're going over today is called Pilot Part 2. It's the second episode of Lost ever. But before we get into that, Fast Reflex Award time. If you don't know what that is, if you're one of the first 10 to comment where and when the fast images or secret flashes of images pop up, then you win this prize, and knowing that you are better than everyone else. Okay, so episode 2 starts off with Jack, Kate, and Charlie coming back through the jungle with the transceiver that's not working. And we flash back. It's right before the plane crashes, but this time it focuses on Charlie. Cindy, the stewardess, she wonders if he's okay. He's tapping his ring finger really hard against the seat. And he gets up fast, heading to the front of the plane, and he runs into Jack like we saw last episode. Then he climbs across Shannon, and we can hear her say, "Hey!" And he goes to the front bathroom. He pulls out his heroin stash, while all the flight attendants are banging on the door, telling him to please come out. And right before he flushes away the heroin, Charlie gets thrown against the ceiling from the turbulence, and he crawls outside to the nearest empty seat and straps himself in. Now the interesting thing here is where Charlie sits. Remember last episode we saw that the front of the plane crashed in the middle of the jungle away from everyone else. Well, this episode we see Charlie in the bathroom, comes out, straps himself in the nearest seat in the front of the plane, and in both cases, both episodes, we see that oceanic piece of glass. So according to this, that would mean Charlie would have to crash with the front of the plane in the middle of the jungle and not with everyone else. And there's also another random blooper here. If you watch the episode 1 and 2, Jack's flashback and Charlie's flashback, the order of the lines of Rose's, "Guess you really had to go," and Cindy's, "Excuse me, sir," it just doesn't match up. We go back to the beach. Shannon's doing her best Paris Hilton impression, living the tough life, not wanting to help her brother Boone, while Claire says she hasn't felt her baby move since the crash. Michael can't find Walt, so he asks Sun if she knows where he is, and seeing how Jin is watching her, she pretends not to know English. But before Michael leaves, Jin yells in Chinese for Sun to completely button her blouse. I guess this was just too much for Jin to handle. Walt is off in the jungle looking for his dog Vincent. Where could he be? And we see parts of the plane in the background here. Then he finds some handcuffs on the ground. Michael finds him, and they both look around, wondering what this island's all about. And we find out later this episode that the handcuffs belong to Kate. She was wearing them on the plane, and it's also the reason why she was rubbing her wrists the first episode when she first met Jack. And randomly, Sawyer and Sayid are getting bored, so they try to play some real-life Mortal Kombat until Jack breaks them up. And also notice here the lengths of Sayid's facial hair, even Sawyer's facial hair, because I'll bring it up later. It's funny too, when Sayid and Sawyer are fighting, Sayid yells out, "Ibn al-Kalb," to him, which I guess translates to "Geez, Sayid." So everyone's wondering why they're fighting, and randomly Michael steps in going, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, my kid found these," and he gives the handcuffs to Jack, and they all look at him like, "Okay," and they get back to the fight. Sawyer thinks that Sayid, the terrorist, crashed the plane, but Kate comes in and says that they found the transceiver, but it's broken, and wonders if anyone can fix it, so Sayid says that he probably can. Hurley visits Sayid, trying to fix it, also hurt by Sawyer, receiving Sawyer's first nickname of Lardo. They become friends, but Sayid mentions that he was in the Republican Guard. A little later, Sayid fixes it, but there's no reception, so it can't broadcast a message for rescue. But Saeed says that the only way to get a signal would be to climb the top of the mountains for higher ground. Jin's preparing the shellfish that he caught for the survivors, and Sun wants to eat some, so he slaps her. When he leaves, she's such a rebel that she undoes her top button. Ooh. Walt's reading a Spanish comic book, which happens to be the Green Lantern Flash Faster Friends #1 comic, and we can see a polar bear in it. And later on, Michael throws the comic book into a fire after wondering where he got it. But soon after that, Walt was attacked by a polar bear, almost identical to the one in the comic book. And don't forget that Michael gave a stuffed animal polar bear to Walt as a little kid. But here's the interesting part. Walt turns the page for only a second, and you can barely see on the next page of the comic book that there's an image of a castle or a fortress in the middle of the ocean, surrounded by a giant glass dome. And if you remember later in Season 2, when Desmond returns to the island, he tells the Losties that the island is like a snow globe. There's no way out. Michael comes over and says that they can get another dog when they get home. I think he should have said if. We go to Shannon, and she's crying when she sees the body of the dead crewman who wouldn't let her sit in first class on the plane, which ultimately saved her life. So she decides to go with the others up the mountain. And as they go off, we see Sawyer reading a letter, looking like he's about to cry. And they don't show us what the letter says this episode, but later on we find out that it's a letter written by Sawyer, aka James Ford, to the original Sawyer, the man who ruined his life. We later find out that the letter says, "Dear Mr. Sawyer, you don't know who I am, but I know who you are, and I know what you've done. You had sex with my mother, and then you stole my dad's money all away. So he got angry and killed my mother, and then he killed himself too. All I know is your name, but one of these days I'm going to find you, and I'm going to give you this letter so you'll remember what you done to me. You killed my parents, Mr. Sawyer." Then Sawyer decides to join the group for the easy hike up the mountains. Michael talks to Jack and says that his son misses his dog, but Jack says that he saw it in the middle of the jungle. Walt comes up to Locke, who teaches him the rules of backgammon, and he says it's the oldest game in the world, and that there are two sides, light and dark. You don't normally say light and dark when referring to colors of pieces, usually black and white, so this whole conversation didn't have to do with the rules at all. It was referring to something bigger. This is also the first time they introduced one of their biggest themes of light and dark, good versus evil, even physically black versus white, which we see later. He could even be referring to them as being pieces in a giant game, or even be referring to good and evil as being the oldest game ever. If you look at the backgammon board closely, you can see the number 16 on the dice conveniently sticking up. And then Locke asks Walt if he wants to know a little secret, a little Michael Jackson-ish. We find out later what that secret is in episode 4. Jin's continuing to practice his Costco sampling skills and gives some to Claire, and she feels her baby kick and forces Jin's hand to feel it, calling it a he without realizing.